So friends, we continue to keep an eye on the news and events on the Ukraine-Russia front, and as of today the situation on the Kupiansk direction remains complex. The occupiers are attempting to advance and heavily shelling the entire area around Kupiansk from their available weaponry, while also launching a significant assault on Ukrainian armed forces positions. And today the tactics employed by the occupiers resemble the Wagner private military company's operation in Bakhmut. They are conducting an offensive known as Operation Storm Z. These groups are composed of criminals from correctional facilities, and they are deployed in large number to breach through fields and reach trenches and wooded areas where Ukrainian forces positions are located. And this allows them to progress deep into our territory up to 4 kilometers. And the fields are covered with tall grass and the vegetation is quite dense, making their detection not immediate. As it appears, this is why the Russians managed to penetrate fairly deep into our territory. However, since a significant portion of their manpower doesn't reach their intended destinations, they are unable to establish a firm foothold, and thus the front line remains unchanged. But before we continue assessing the situation on the front line, I kindly ask you to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. And similarly, in the Svatova area, the situation remains relatively stable today. No new attacks are reported, and only shelling activities are being recorded. Likewise, in the Kremina and Siversk area, despite amassing a 100,000 strong threat, active offensive operations are not being conducted at the moment. Instead, there are reports of shelling along the entire front line. And in the Bakhmut area, the occupiers are attempting to advance in 3 directions, around Andriivka, Kurdyumivka, and Druzhba. However, the Ukrainian forces are holding their defense and periodically launching counterattacks to execute plans for surrounding Bakhmut. And unfortunately, there have been no changes along the front line so far, and the situation remains challenging. And in the Avdiivka direction, artillery exchanges continue, and the occupiers persist in their offensive actions towards Avdiivka. However, the Ukrainian forces are entrenched in strong defense positions and successfully repel all attacks. And further south in Marinka, the situation has also remained unchanged for a while, and it is important to note that daily offensives are ongoing and the front line remains stable. This indicates that the occupiers are experiencing daily losses, while the Ukrainian forces are maintaining their defensive posture and keeping the situation under control. And in Vuhledar direction, there is emerging information that the occupiers are gradually withdrawing their forces to the next defensive line, which is Staromlinivka. However, for the purpose of defense, reserves are being deployed in the area of Urozhaine, and currently Urozhaine is within the Great Zone, but no tactical or significant assault operations are being conducted at the moment. And additionally, the occupiers continue intensified shelling of all liberated settlements to facilitate their controlled withdrawal to new positions. And in the Zaporizhia direction, the occupiers persist in their attempts to regain any positions around Robotine, but their efforts remain unsuccessful. The Ukrainian forces repel all attacks, and there is likelihood of new offensive operations to advance towards Tokmak in the near future. However, the occupiers, understanding the great threat, periodically employ chemical ammunition to halt counterattacks. Experts highlight this issue and urge maximum attention to it. Nevertheless, over the past day, the front line has remained unchanged and artillery exchanges continue. And now let's discuss the intensity of battles to the east of Robotine. As observed in the latter half of July, the battles have shifted further south between Verbove and Robotine. Near point 80.6, situated in lowlands relative to neighboring terrain, artillery is relentlessly pounding the ground, indicating high intensity of combat. And in the Kherson direction, there is success on the side of the Ukrainian forces. And in the previous video, I showed that the occupiers are already panicking and claiming that the Ukrainian forces have landed in the area of Cossack camps. And according to their information, the Ukrainian forces' advance was 800 meters. However, this information hasn't been confirmed by the Ukrainian General Staff yet, but the key point is that the occupiers are panicking, and that's a positive sign. And similarly, the Russians continue shelling along the entire front line to inflict maximum damage on Ukrainian territory and mostly hitting residential buildings of civilians. Perhaps the occupiers are targeting some military facilities, but they seem to hit residential buildings predominantly. And in Crimea, it's also scorching hot. The Ukrainian armed forces have shown that the Changar bridge is under their control. On two bridges today, according to preliminary information, all the passenger cars are moving, presumably to allow Russians to leave Crimea. However, military equipment is moving through Armyansk, but movement is currently severely restricted. If the Ukrainian armed forces manage to completely halt the movement, it could be said that the 100,000 strong occupiers group will be trapped with two options: either retreat towards Mariupol or face defeat in the Melitopol area. And today there is also active discussion about the situation with the Wagner mercenaries in Belarus. Poland and Lithuania are increasing the number of soldiers near their borders, and an American general has commented on the situation.
Я маю з вами не погодитися. Вагнер – це російська сила. Сили Вагнера – російські ставленики. Вагнер підтримується і фінансується Росією. Це російська група. Якщо Вагнер піде на польський кордон, Польща, принаймні, може щонайменше застосувати 4-й пункт статуту НАТО для консультацій. І тоді вже НАТО займеться цим питанням. Провокації, я вважаю, що це позерство. Але ось що я знаю. Якби ці невеликі сили або сили Білорусі перейшли на територію Польщі, Польща впоралася б з цим швидко та ефективно. Польські військові стрімко стають одними з найкращих у світі та неймовірно оснащені. У них величезні інвестиції. І я повністю впевнений, що Польща зможе впоратися з Вагнером і білоруськими силами, якщо вони вирішать увійти на територію Польщі. Якщо ви думаєте, що з Росією у військовому плані вже покінчено, ви помиляєтеся, у них є ще багато можливостей. Але Путіну знадобиться величезний політичний підйом, щоб продовжити залучати нові війська та робити деякі речі, які йому, можливо, доведеться робити. Я думаю, що зараз пан Путін так само, якщо не більше, стурбований своєю внутрішньою безпекою, ніж своєю зовнішньою безпекою.
Earlier I mentioned that the Russian armed forces are using prisoners for assault operations in Kupiansk, and I want to add some more information to this. The military leadership of the Russian Federation employed the practice of utilizing mobilized and Russian prisoners for mass assaults on Ukrainian positions. And according to information from underground sources, the personnel of the occupiers are inadequately equipped and prepared for such operations, and only after the common sees success in such assaults and regular military personnel deployed. And these methods are used practically along the entire front line. The enemy's military leadership disregards significant losses, as a new wave of mobilization is planned in Russia for the fall. The Center of National Resistance reminds that the only way for the occupant to stay alive is to surrender safely to the forces of defense. And meanwhile, in the Russian suburbs of Moscow, an explosion occurred at an optomechanical factory that produces sights, night vision devices, and more. Russian media report these incidents, and it is one of the oldest optical industry enterprises in Russia. The factory produces, among other things, optical aviation sights, thermal images, self-guided warheads, laser detection stations, observation devices, as well as night vision devices, binoculars, and more. And last summer there was a powerful fire at this factory, with reports indicating that storage facilities were ablaze. And now a Russian Telegram channel reports that the explosion supposedly occurred at warehouses with pyrotechnics, resulting in at least 22 wounded, and people may be trapped under the rubble. More than a dozen ambulances have arrived at the scene to provide assistance. And also today Biden, so to speak, gave the green light to the training of Ukrainian pilots of F-16 aircraft. US President Joe Biden has approved the training of Ukrainian military personnel on American F-16 fighters. The Pentagon emphasized that the training process is being led by Denmark and the Netherlands. And this was announced by the deputy spokesperson for the Pentagon, Sabrina Singh. And at the same time, she noted that currently there are no official statements from the American side regarding the details of the upcoming training. And that's all from me. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.